Just come in here. He can't see.
Good morning, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Why are we the Smarties? Well, it's not just us. We are in the green room, but the Smarties are everybody who comes here, watches the show, participates, and makes smart decisions based on understanding and knowledge and education that they get from this show and from elsewhere. That's what a Smartie is. So the Smarties gather here, and we have fun doing it. Hi, my name is Roland from R&D Hotline. Have a question, call the hotline. It doesn't even have to be about internet marketing. I might even answer it. But anyway, I have a couple of co-hosts that join me on Saturdays, and the first one here is Molly Youngblood Geiger. Please say hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Molly Youngblood Geiger of Design Right For You out of Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm excited to be here today. And I work with Google on several different platforms. I'm a Google Rising Star, Google Partners Community Ambassador, and also a Google Small Business Community Advisor.
Very good. Thank you very much, Molly, and we're always glad to have you. We call her our Google lady. And our next lady is our Saturday morning marketing Smarties social media engagement specialist and San Francisco marketing consultant. This is Karen B. Chin. Say hi, please.
Hi, Roland. It's going to be a great show today. I know Lynn's going to share us. She's got a whole list of things to bring it to attention, and I can't wait to listen to it. So it's going to be exciting, I think.
That being said, thank you, Karen. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is our guest today. I strategically placed her the week before her End Summit, which she is the final speaker of, which is next Friday, and you still can get on, you can still register, and you can still watch that show live for free as of right now. And her name is Lynn Sanders. Say hi, Lynn.
Hello, everyone. It's great being here with you. Thank you for inviting me, Roland. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Are you over your nervousness now?
Oh, I think I'm pretty calm. I have a partner here, my husband, who is deciding whether he's going to join us or not, Joel Sanders. I hope he will.
Well, you can't sit off to the side and just giggle a little bit and us wonder who you are, Joel. So why don't you move into the screen and just say hi?
He's never been on a hangout on here.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Okay, see, that's a little better. Now we know what you look like and who you are, and that you are a part of Lynn's life. And we would like to maybe reserve a few minutes to ask you about what you do later. And it's going to be very interesting. I personally take a personal interest in what Joel does, and we're probably going to be talking more extensively about it in the near future. But in the meantime, we're going to step on back to Lynn and ask her a few questions about what she is and what she does. So are you ready, Lynn?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I have to say, Roland, you are so good and natural at this. I've always admired that. So I had told Roland that I've always been used to, for years and years, being the one behind the camera, asking the questions, and writing stories, creating videos for stories. So it's still, a newer experience, even though I've been doing the Difference Makers media for the Difference Makers show for the last year and started the summit 6 weeks ago. But as far as myself, I guess you could say I have an eclectic background. I have a music degree. Actually, I taught music. I still do some piano teaching on the side. I love writing, and I've been writing ever since I could hold a crayon. Writing poems from when I was very little to stories. I was on the newspaper staff in high school, the news and feature editor. I won awards for my writing and poetry and articles. Most of my business started out as a writer. Before I had my own company, I was writing professionally for a commercial music company. I taught school music, and then I transitioned into writing for a music company where I wrote lyrics for commercials like WGN Television's Claim to Fame, Chicago's very own Channel 9. If you live in the Chicago area, I'm sure you've heard of that phrase with Lou Rawls singing, who was a very famous singer. I actually got to meet him in the recording studio, and I wrote trade shows for Fortune 500 companies, which basically condensed their marketing message into a 5 to 7 minute mini musical. So I would create little mini musical shows where people would walk by at a trade show and they would stop in the aisles to watch something that was going on on a little stage and get them interested in products or services. So for instance, like for Reynolds Aluminum, I wrote a little show about their ready panorama of profits. So they had pans, ready pans. And then after almost 7 years, I ended up starting my own company. It was Park Avenue Productions, because I lived on Park Avenue, where I did writing for all types of clients. And it transitioned into doing writing and producing videos. And then it grew even more into doing writing and videos and now live media, all focused around telling people's stories in a compelling way. And so, trying to keep my stories condensed, because it's been a long time. I've been writing professionally since 1979. And then I started my own business in '85. And over the last couple years, I've really been rethinking what is my business. So that's why I'm now transitioning to the idea of having a new name for my company of Difference Makers Media, because that captures the essence of what I'm all about. I really love, that's where my passion stems from. I love making a positive impact, a positive difference. I still have Park Avenue Marketing as the name I transitioned into from Park Avenue Productions. So it's been a little challenge. Do I give up the name that I'm known by? But I think right now I'm going to be focused more on Difference Makers Media and still keep Park Avenue in the background so people will know where to find me. But I love what we're doing right here. This is really great.
I love what you just said too, because the transition in your name from Park Avenue Marketing to Difference Makers Media is so focused on the keyword concept of what you do, which is a natural thing in marketing that we do. We focus on the keywords. And in this case, I'm just talking about the spirit of what you do. You don't Park Avenue, you make a difference. So I like it a lot more, and I think it makes a lot of sense to go that direction. So
now, Molly has a comment. Do you want to speak, Molly? I like what you just said in the chat room here.
Yeah, I was just saying the art of storytelling is a really excellent strategy with marketing, because from the time we're very, very small, we're ingrained to listen to stories. We're told stories as children, and that's something that even as adults we still enjoy hearing a good story. So I think when you talk about storytelling and listening to your story, it's just a really great way to connect with your audience.
Exactly. Well, that's why I was thinking of branding myself as a story marketing expert. I was told not to use coach, because coach is just one-to-one, but story marketing, like you said, is a way of remembering people's products or services, remembering what they're all about by telling a story well and then getting it out to the masses.
I know. Okay. I'll let you go next. I was just going to say, there's a commercial here where I live where it's a local grocery chain, and they tell a story about a daughter and her father, and it's something that I can relate to, and it's that connection from that story that has me connected to them as a brand. So I just wanted to add that when you can use a story to help market your business, it's a really great strategy to use. Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
Oh, that's great.
Actually, I was going to kind of tie into that. So, Lynn, how do you feel now that you're thinking of changing the name to the Difference Makers, with the fact that marketing is completely different what it was even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, to what it is today, where definitely with social media, getting your message out and telling your story is not just, billboards and newspapers and advertising in a traditional sense, but across different platforms, whether it's video, social media, and those channels. I mean, it's kind of an interesting kind of take now when you think about it, and I think the name that you're thinking for your company totally makes sense.
Oh, thank you, Karen. It's so, Karen, I'm not seeing your face for some reason. It just looks black. I don't know why, but I'm going to talk to you anyway because I hear your voice. You might think this is really funny or even unusual, but a number of years ago, I was at the Northbrook Chamber meeting in the morning, and I told some women that I was thinking of changing my name from Park Avenue Marketing to Difference Makers Media. This woman who's in real estate rushed up to me, and she said, "Don't do it. Don't change your name. Park Avenue, that's much better. Difference Makers Media doesn't grab me." And then I thought about it, and it actually affected me, because at that time I was Really, I was placing more credibility in other people's opinions than my own opinion. So when I went to a lawyer to get incorporated, I was vacillating back and forth, and I said, oh, well, never mind. Let's just keep it at Park Avenue Marketing, LLC, and then I'll make doing business as a secondary name, Difference Makers Media, which is what it is now. I was influenced by someone else because, see, her ideal audience, her ideal name would be Park Avenue Marketing. And I realized, you know, your name has to be the one that attracts the right audience. So she wouldn't be my ideal client. She would be ideal for a Park Avenue feeling. But the Difference Makers Media attracts the clients who want to be hanging out with a difference maker. Does that make sense?
Well,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think also too is that it's much more global. You know, we live in a global age, right? With communications, and Park Avenue to me is much more traditional and more brick and mortar, versus Difference Makers takes it to a whole nother level.
Well, thank you, Karen. I can't tell you, Roland could add to this. Can't tell you how much concern I've had every week. Roland is redoing my website, so it seems like every week or so I say, Roland, maybe I should just change it back again to Park Avenue Marketing and just put Difference Makers off to the side, maybe just one tab. So it's like a big thing to change your name, at least for me. But I realize that I have to do what feels right intuitively. And you're saying it has a bigger reach. And I think that comes down to reaching the audience that's right for that name.
I mean, you know, as you said, I mean, you've been in business for 30 years with that name, so it is hard to make that transition. But I think it's going to take you to another level with using the Difference Makers. And because being such a great storyteller that you are, you can weave that story in of how that evolved from where you were from a traditional kind of marketing company to now what you are today into the digital age.
You're great. Karen, can I hire you as my publicist? You're really good. You're good.
No, but I will hire her as a pep talker for you in order to stay on course with what you're doing. Lynn, right. The Difference Makers Media is the right thing to do. For one thing, Park Avenue Marketing is an imagery thing. The people want to associate with a name because the name tends to mean something more elite. And Difference Makers wipes out the span of what's going on, disassociates with the view of, gee, Park Avenue is a shiny object name. And it's really Difference Makers means that the people who are engaging you are going to be able to be encouraged to make a difference. And it makes all the difference in your name. So I think that you've made the right choice.
Now, Molly had a comment here that I would love her to say what's on her mind, too. Go
ahead.
Yeah.
So in my field of expertise, I've encountered businesses who have decided to change their name, kind of like how you've done. And so if you're a business owner and you decide to change your name, there's a few things you want to take into account before you actually make the change. One of them is you want to remember the website visitors who are used to going to your old website, because with the, you don't want to lose that audience. So the way we typically handle that is we do something called a 301 redirect. And we do this from something called the .ht access file. And the HT access file is a read-only file that what happens is when somebody goes to your old domain name, it will actually automatically redirect them to your brand new website. So that way you don't lose that traffic, and your audience, they realize, oh, hey, she's got a new website, she's got a new business, that type of thing. And then something else you want to also make sure of is across all your social media platforms, you want to make sure everything's all correct, the name changes, and business directories too, because the way Google grades a business is they look very, very closely at the accuracy. So just making a name change is very important. I think it's a great idea. I really like the name that you've come up with, but as a business owner, you want to make sure you take these things into account prior to flipping the switch, so to speak, so you make sure that you keep your rank with Google and you keep your audience.
Wow, that's very good advice. What about your emails? I mean, I was thinking right now of just having all the emails still come in from Park Ave Marketing, because that's where people have been reaching me, and that's still my corporated name.
Sure. So
putting that at the bottom of a page so people will know it's still the same person.
So the way I would probably handle that is At first, I would go. I'm not sure what client you're using. I use Gmail as my client, and Gmail has the ability. You can add as many unique Gmail addresses that you want. So, say you've got Lynn at differencemakers.com. I'm just throwing that out there. You can actually go into Gmail and create an email for that account, and then you could send a blast out to your contacts that are already within your Gmail to let them know, hey, by the way, I'm a brand new business. Here's my, my new website. Here's my new email address. And then that way you can connect with those people. But your idea of sending out a newsletter or an email blast to let them know your new address is a good idea too.
That's great. Yes, it's good for anyone, I guess, listening who's thinking about a name change. It seems like a huge monumental effort, but I think it's important if you're changing the idea of the feeling behind your company and who you want to reach.
Well, and I would add to that also that you're going to want to make sure and update the Search Console to add your brand new domain name, so that way, as a webmaster, whomever, I think Roland's your webmaster, they can keep track of the activity, making sure that there's no penalties or manual penalties to the website, making sure there's no soft 404s. We want to have the user have a great experience, and that's where something like Search Console, Google Analytics, you're going to want to make sure and update your Google Analytics to include your new domain name. All those free tools that Google offers, make sure and just across the board, make sure and systematically make sure they all get updated.
Wow, that's great advice. And Karen has some advice too. I don't want to speak for you, Karen. If you want to say your advice, those are great comments here in the chat I'm seeing.
So I was thinking also too, Lynn, is definitely you have a story and that you should create a marketing communication campaign or a Marcom campaign surrounding that name change, where, I mean, you could talk about this story for the next year, and build that audience and build that momentum before you even change the name and have Roland launch it live. You could just start talking about why you're changing it to your audience, to your followers. Whether it's email or your social channels, or whether you're still using traditional print newsletters that you do by mail. However you want to communicate, you should make sure that you're communicating the change so that it's not a surprise when you do make it and everyone's aware of what that change is and can root for you.
Wow, Karen, that's a good point. How long of a time period do you think this campaign should be? Because we were working to get this new website up like before next week, so that's very soon.
I would start now then.
Yeah, because I had the same website so long. It went through a lot of trial and tribulation. My website now is under Park Ave, avemarketing.com, and then I forwarded the name of the differencemakers.biz. I don't know if it was fixed, Roland. That's supposed to be going to the same place. The other day it said error on that. I don't know why. And then
because we changed servers, and so we'll be fixing that. Yes.
Yeah, and then Difference Makers Media is also still going to the same spot, but right now it's an old website that has video samples and writing samples, but it looks old.
I mean, usually with companies that I've worked with, you should be actually starting this kind of name change. I mean, I think Molly had a point with Google changing it from now being called Alphabet. I mean, they launched it because they're a publicly traded company and they can't announce it because of the SEC and all that good stuff. But for you, I mean, I would tell people what you're doing, and let them know that you are changing. Here are the reasons why. And why you're going from this, I think Bill Graham said kind of a real estate quote company feel, because it says Park Avenue, kind of monopoly, to what you are now going to this difference maker where it's much more of a digital online, and you're also making the point of working with and people who want to work with you of making a difference. So I really think you could play up on the difference portion of it and really bring up the value proposition of what that means to your audience, and along the way let them know what that means, and then also that can also extend to your new audience that you're targeting too.
That's a great point. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
So I'm going to cut in here because it's going haywire. I actually had you come on the show so we could interview you and it turned into a consultation for your business from the triad of
I don't mind. I think
green
that's
room.
wonderful.
So, and that's fine, but
Okay.
we can do that on another occasion, and we really
Okay.
want to get more from you as opposed to you. So,
All right.
we can go on and on with that for a while. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up was that you and your husband have been involved in some humanitarian movements, and
Mhm.
I don't know if Joel's still around or has he exited.
He's hiding out. It's so
Okay.
funny. Every day, think about being a dentist. He's inches from people's mouths all day, dealing with all their emotions. So when he has a day off, like today and Saturday, he likes not having anything structured because his day is so intense. So I didn't require him to be here. He's somewhere in the house.
Okay.
So I'll
That's
tell
good.
you a little about that because he's got the biggest heart, and I'm so grateful to be his wife, and we've grown a lot together. We got married. We were really pretty young. I was just 22, and it's been a while. Well, not if I tell you, it's been a while we've been married. How many years? But so Joel sometimes he hears about things from different patients, and then I hear about them. Just like I think in any relationship, you help each other, share things. So a patient had told him about this nonprofit called Causes for Change International. And Joel loves doing humanitarian work as I do, and this is an organization where they go out to Ecuador because the founder's from Ecuador, and they provide free health care to children in need. And I haven't really traveled that extensively, but he wanted to know if we would be, if we could do this, we would be volunteering. But more than volunteering, we were asked to collect different things for the trip, from dental supplies. He had to bring his own supplies to toiletry items, and I was asked to collect 1,000 Beanie Babies. And we went on this trip 3 times. Now, why Beanie Babies? Well, they're small, and the children have no toys, and they've never seen a dentist or doctor before, so they've never even seen a shot before. But I thought, sounds like a fun adventure, and I'd love to do it, but I didn't know if I could. This is just an example of a story. I didn't know if I could possibly ever collect 1,000 Beanie Babies, but I certainly didn't have the heart to refuse the founder of the organization, who happens to operate out of a wheelchair. And she has her own story of how she survived being very poor in Ecuador and ended up in the United States and wanted to give back to the children of Ecuador because she herself had a very hard life. So I just thought, why not just try to see if I could collect 1,000 Beanie Babies? And I sent out an email to everyone I knew, and I posted on social media, I believe. And all of a sudden, I got a call from a wife of the man who I'd written to, who was a composer, and she said, my daughter and her friend have been cleaning out their closet, and we'd like to come over and bring you some Beanie Babies. And I said, great. And she said, they're in large garbage bags. Is that okay? And I said, fine. So I had no expectation of how many Beanie Babies she was going to bring, but the car pulls up in the driveway, and these two girls come out, and they're bringing large black bag garbage bags filled with Beanie Babies. I was shocked because, I thought, I'm getting goosebumps, so I know it's a good thing. So I thought the most I could collect 350 Beanie Babies. I had no idea. So the girls left all the Beanie Babies. I just started counting one after another after another. I had something like 350 Beanie Babies from 2 girls. Isn't that amazing? So I thought, maybe it really is possible. I could collect these. So I just, kept being perseverant, and some friends even gave me money to buy them, so I would go to house sales. I love doing that anyway, and looking for toys. I ended up with 1,800 Beanie Babies. 1,800!
Wow.
And we gave out every one, and we even had more people, like the mothers would come to us with their infants wanting a Beanie Baby. We were giving them to children who were having dental work because they were scared. So they were happy. Like one child wanted more Beanie Babies. She wanted to know if she could have another tooth pulled out. Just so she could get a toy. Basically, there was no equipment. We were in these really, really rural areas. They'd never seen anyone American. They were shocked that we were coming there working without pay. My role, since I'm certainly not a dentist or a healthcare professional, I offer to provide entertainment to the children. Joel speaks Spanish pretty fluently. He lived in Argentina for a year in high school as a study abroad student, and then he later volunteered with Amigos International, where he learned to be a paramedic, and he did that in Guatemala and Paraguay. So he was comfortable speaking in Spanish, and I learned some Spanish. So I borrowed a guitar, and I sang musical songs with the children and did some games, and I was out in the 90-plus degree heat entertaining them and having fun while they waited for hours in this heat to get their teeth examined and have a tooth pulled, because if there's an abscess, you can actually die from something like that. There was no way to put, fillings in. My husband doesn't use metal anyway. He uses porcelain because that's all the story. Metal breaks down into mercury, which is considered toxic. So as a holistic dentist, he only uses natural products. But in this case, we were just caring for kids, and it gave me such a good feeling. I can't tell you. I woke up every day just excited to do something for kids and make them feel happy. And then,
maybe I could give you a breather for a moment, because it's just like your story is so contiguous with one thing leads to another, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted you on the show was so much of the time a marketer is not known for who they are. They're just focused on what they do, and the things that they can achieve and the services they provide, so forth. But I really wanted people to know who you are with this episode of the Smarties, because next week on Friday you're going to tell them what you do. You're going to tell them clear, without any question, about what you do, and that's going to be a special presentation. But I felt that maybe knowing who you are might add to everyone's incentive to find out what you do. So that was a very specific reason that I had you on today, and I'm glad you joined us. But just to step away from the humanitarian for the moment, I wanted to acknowledge a few people out there. There's been too many comments, and I have to catch a few. This first one from Carmen Mandich says, "What a wonderful story, and it goes to show you that you never know what you can achieve until you try. I need to follow my own words." So she's thinking about, she's going to do that. And Carmen, you got your haircut, about 3 weeks ago now, and you said you'd be on the show. So you better get ready, and something to back up a phrase or two, a paragraph or two. Barbara Quick says, "I love the new name." So she likes the Difference Makers Media also.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to do a couple of those. And Carmen had another statement. "Caring for kids sounds like the title of a loving story for Lynn Sanders."
Oh, thank you. I actually, Carmen, I just want to let you know, I wrote about the story. I was so moved. I wrote about our experience in Ecuador, and it was published in 2 different local publications. One was Make It Better magazine that goes out to all different people along the North Shore, and the other was Streetwise, which is a local Chicago paper that helps people who are homeless be able to support themselves. They sell newspapers for like $2, and they get half of that money coming back. So I can share a funny story about that as well if you want, Roland, about being in Streetwise.
Okay, we can do that in just a second, but Bill Graham also says, "Getting Beanie Babies in Ecuador is like something too." So anyway, people are enjoying your story, and it just brings to mind that you have quite a story. And one of the reasons that I'm really glad to have you on here today, I've known you for quite a few months now, and I've been listening to bits and pieces of these different things, going, God, I can't believe there's so much going on. She's talking about everyone else's story and how to express these stories, but yours, it needs to be told too. So someday we're encouraging you to write your own books, and of course I know you will, but right now you're just a little bit busy.
Well, I have one book, that one book is percolating right now.
Right, and we're going to let you talk about that in a second, but you had a subject that you wanted to cover before we moved on.
Oh, no, I was just saying that, all of us have stories. We all have stories, and they all teach us different lessons. And Joel just came back, and maybe he'll share a little of his. He has a lot of stories. But, if you have something that's burning in your heart, a passion, I say go for it, follow it. In the case of the Ecuador experience, I was brought along because of my husband, but I just loved being part of that whole experience. And so being a writer, I wanted to write about it. And the story was, as I mentioned just a moment ago, was published in 2 different publications. And one of those is called Streetwise. It's a really great publication to help those in need. So instead of just giving someone a free handout, they ask if you'll buy their paper, and you give them money, and they're at least making a living. So it happened that one day, after my story was published, there was a vendor selling Streetwise right near a Walgreens, and actually it had our story in the paper. So
Wow.
I said to him, "Oh, you're selling Streetwise? My story's in this issue." He said, "It is?" And he looked at me like I was a celebrity, He said, will you sign my paper? And I said, "Oh, come on." He said, "Really?" So I signed his paper. We got his name. It turned out that he needed dental work, and they all needed dental work, because if people think about it, if you want to get a job, how do you think it looks if you have poor looking teeth? Then it's harder to get a job. So we spoke with the head people at Streetwise, and Joel is an amazingly giving person, and he said he would do the work at no charge if they could just cover his costs. I don't know if they're still referring patients, but he ended up doing work for different people who are, registered through Streetwise to give them free dental care, because just like people in Ecuador need help, well, people in the United States need help, and there aren't that many places where people can go for free dental work. So that's how one story grew into another story and ended up coming back and helping people even locally. Just thought I'd share that.
I did use the term contiguous.
Yes.
So I've got a bad echo going. I don't know why it's doing that, but we won't worry about it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's gone away now. So a
good.
gremlin came and went. So, but anyway, since we're talking about that and just kind of like exited out the Ecuador, before we leave the concept completely, would Joel like to talk a little bit about what he did as the holistic dentist in Ecuador?
I'm hoping so. Come on, just for a minute. Now
Come
remember,
on, Joel.
he's not experienced on Hangouts. Do you want me to get on?
What can I say?
No, that'll do it right there, because
Roland, honestly, I wasn't a holistic dentist in Ecuador.
yeah, but
I was in Ecuador, but there, you know what? We were in areas by the coast, north, and we were in areas where there was actually no health care. They had never seen healthcare workers before. No physicians, no dentists, no optometrists, ophthalmologists, nothing. So we were doing basic work, and we were seeing at the time, well, we were there 3 different times. So there were about, at one time there were about 3 different dentists all working together, and we were seeing about 250, 300 kids a day. And I don't know if you realize that's an incredible amount. And
crazy.
we were, oh yeah, and they'd never seen a dentist. So what would happen is, we're on the equator, it's super hot, extreme, it's like 100% humidity, all these people, so the whole family comes, maybe one kid's coming to the dentist, but the whole family comes with. And so there's literally 500 to 1,000 people in line. The first kid walks into the clinic, sees the forceps, and starts screaming, and it's like a chain reaction, and all of a sudden you've got like 250, 300 kids screaming outside. And imagine this is for hours.
My
and at one point I had such a headache, I was like, oh my God. Between that and the heat. And then I went up so we had a lunch break, and I went up to eat, and they had like this little thin turkey soup. In Mexico, they call turkey guajolote, which is the old Aztec word. And it's like guajolote soup. And I mean, I was like, I needed protein. I needed. But anyways, I was not doing holistic dentistry. We were really, these were kids who had, sugar cane is plentiful. From morning to evening, they suck on sugar cane just because it tastes good. And kids would come in, and their teeth are literally decayed down to the gum line to little black dots. And were abscessed, and it's an area where people die of abscesses. There's no antibiotics, there's no medications. It's a whole different scenario. It's not the North Shore where we live.
Right.
And,
Well, So
anyways,
basically, you were doing
that's a long.
humanitarian dentistry.
So
You were
basically,
basically doing humanitarian dentistry.
we did
But
only oral surgery, right?
yes, and I was interested in bringing you on here so we could at least cover, because people are going to wonder, now that I said it a few times and posted it in the details, what exactly is I mean, now I'm stuck on the humanitarian.
Yeah.
Holistic dentistry.
Well,
Please give
basically,
a
yeah.
short idea of what that is.
Well, not to belabor it, but basically, in my opinion, what holistic dentistry is, it's energy dentistry, and it's basically, the body is a huge energy field, and so to me, holistic dentistry is doing your best to avoid anything that will disrupt the body's natural energy field. So that sounds kind of crazy, but basically what it is take, for example, a mercury filling. Everybody knows mercury is toxic. Well, if you have an amalgam, a silver filling in your mouth, it's about 50% mercury. Well, mercury has an electrical field around it. It's a metal. And so what makes mercury toxic is that the electrical field around mercury affects the balance of your body's natural energy field. And that's what happens. So there's something called a meridian, an energy line. And if anybody knows what acupuncture is or has been involved with it, they know that an acupuncturist takes a pin into a very specific spot on the skin. And what it's doing is it's opening or stimulating one of these energy lines that goes to the particular area of the body that you're trying to affect. So imagine this. There's a major energy line or a meridian that goes through every tooth. So if you have even one particle of metal in a filling in a tooth, all the organs that are coordinated or associated with that tooth are now affected, and they cannot function as effectively as they could have before. So I've actually had patients come into my office who have had a cancerous tumor associated with the organ point or the energy line of a particular tooth that had a root canal. And I was speaking to a physician the other day who does thermography, which is heat energy, diagnosis. It's like, for example, like a mammogram, like a woman goes for a mammogram. Okay, well, you can do that with thermography where there's no radiation. And they told me that in the 5 years they've been using this new thermography from Germany, they have never found a tumor that was not associated with a problem in a tooth.
Wow.
That is phenomenal. It's incredible. It's not to say, though, that every time you have a filling or a root canal you're going to have cancer. That's not true. But what they're saying is it's such a burden on the energy system to have this that a particular organ that is connected to that tooth is impaired.
Well,
and it's
there
very
you go.
simple. Just remove the filling and you've opened up the energy again.
That was the picture perfect description that I was hoping that you could give, so that people could understand the different level of dentistry that you deal with versus the average dentist, because they'll hear some similar things, as far as general health and the general idea of holistics, but you drill down into, not to use a pun. Sorry.
Yeah, that was good, Roland. That was good.
It was an accident, really. But,
right. They always say that.
but it's just like getting down to the. Oh no! I was going to use the term.
That's great, Roland.
I'm doomed. I was going to use the term root. Okay, so we're getting down to the. Okay, sorry. Oh my God, this is called a laugh spasm, and I have this because of the remnants of the effects of the stroke, and I just lose my ability to speak and everything. So, getting back to the subject, Joel, the main thing I wanted to do is give the people a taste of what holistic dentistry implies, and to show them that you are just a practitioner of a different shade when it comes to this subject. And we're going to be talking more about this. And the other thing that I wanted to impress upon people is not only is Joel into holistic dentistry, but he ought to be your counselor too, because he's very much in tune with what people are doing and saying and thinking, and that makes a big difference when it comes to this. All this energy fuel stuff
It sounds
is all
like
connected.
Yeah, it sounds like
It
you.
sounds like you, Roland.
Okay, I'm not just the average internet marketer, I guess. No, but thank you very much, and I appreciate you contributing a little bit there to Lynn's background, because now we understand even that much more about her.
Oh,
So thank you very much.
thank you, Roland. Thank you. You've
Yeah,
got
thanks a
a
lot, Joel.
wonderful show here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for
and
joining us.
now
Well,
we're going to jump down on back to Lynn.
and Molly had some interesting things to share here. I don't know if we have a chance about Google Nonprofits program. This sounds interesting. I don't know if you want to share something about that. Sounds good, Molly.
Yeah, I could just quickly share some information. Google has a program called the Google Nonprofits Program, and any nonprofit with the 501c3 tax status in the United States qualifies for several benefits that they offer. It literally is as simple as proving that you have the 501c3 tax status through documentation that the IRS provides, and having a Gmail or a Google account. And so what happens is, if you know of any nonprofits who have this tax status, they can apply through the Google Nonprofits Program for something we called an AdWords grant. An AdWords grant, the nonprofit receives $10,000 worth of free Google AdWords every month. And if they qualify, meaning they follow the rules, or certain rules, like you can't exceed a $2 cost per click, you have to keep a click-through rate of 1% or better. There's some other rules that apply. You actually will qualify for something called Google Grants Pro, which means your AdWords grant gets extended and inflated to $40,000 a month. So in theory, if a if a nonprofit follows the guidelines that the nonprofits programs offers, you literally could get almost $500,000 a year in free Google AdWords. And to a nonprofit, that's a huge benefit. In addition to the AdWords grant, they also they get a preferred YouTube channel. They get a preferred Maps placement. They also qualify for 30 gigabytes of free data, and the Google Apps for Work program, which includes all different kinds of apps, Sheets, Docs, Drive. There's a lot of different apps for work, and it's all free. And they also qualify for something called One Today, which is a crowdfunding platform that Google offers. It's a little bit different than most crowdfunding platforms, because most of the other ones, they charge a percentage of whatever donations you get. Well, Google doesn't. They, whatever you get 100% of what you earn through the One Today platform. So there's some really great benefits, and this is not just for the United States. The program is worldwide. It is limited to some countries. If you have questions about what countries it's applicable to, I can get you information on it. But yeah, I just wanted to share that you said you were working with a nonprofit, and this might even be something that you and your husband consider doing in the future, is forming a nonprofit, because of the humanitarian work that you're doing and that he's doing. It's something that I tell everybody I know about the Google Nonprofits program, because it really surprises me. A lot of people just don't know, and so just part of the thing I do to try and help nonprofits out, I've actually gotten a few local nonprofits signed up for the program, and it's been a really great experience. I manage their AdWords campaign, I build out ads for them, and monitor the click-through rate. In fact, one of my first ones, their organization out of California, I checked their campaign the other day, and they're spending almost 100% of their budget. Meaning, I've built the ads so well that they spend almost $10,000 a month on their campaign, and I was so happy when I saw that, because when I first started out, it's a challenge. You got to figure out, well, what ad's going to work, what's not. And when I logged in, it was yesterday, and it said your campaign is limited by budget, meaning you've already spent your $10,000 this month. I was so happy. I was like, oh, this is outstanding.
Wow.
And what I really love is I installed something called a conversion tracking code, and what that means is that it's a snippet of code that you put on a website, so that you can track what's converting. Meaning, are they filling out a form? Are they emailing you? What are they doing? And their conversion tracking is at 100%, meaning 100% of the people going to their website from an AdWords campaign, they're doing something on the website. So I'm just really excited and wanted to let people know about the Google Grants program.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to talk to you later about that, Molly. I'm really glad you shared that, because I'm thinking that, considering the positive energy from this show, I'm sure there are a lot of other people listening here who have nonprofits in their heart that they want to help or support. So this is great information.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
I got to interject again, because the people in the audience are kind of going nuts. So yeah, first of all, I want to say hi to Adam Zale. He was one of our guests a few weeks ago, and they had a great time talking with him and his partner Ben Fisher. So anyway, Adam Zale says, awesome information on the nonprofit, Molly. Would like to hear more sometime. So I'm encouraging you to contact Adam and tell him more about what you just described, so he can learn more about that. And then the more important feature from Adam Zale is, this is for Joel. I want you to know that I brushed my teeth twice during this hangout, and
Great.
I appreciate that, Adam. Thank you. And Carmen Mandich said, absolutely fascinating information, Joel. I'm learning so much.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
so obviously you're making an impact with what you said, Joel, and people are interested in the subject. And Barbara Quick says, I was watching a series of webinars on cancer, and they told about how involved one's mouth is in well-being and in the prevention of cancer. So people are familiar with it, and I think that you're going to ring some bells and find some associated people who actually understand what you're talking about. So I think the following on your subject would be pretty easy, Joel. So I'm just encouraging you that it's a subject that will find a following and the people will be interested in it, sharing and passing that on. So anyway, that's the end of that particular turn of the hangout, and I appreciate everyone commenting and so forth. But before we let you go, because we're running into like 13 minutes left in this
Oh my.
whole show, it's like run away, right? I mean, gee,
Definitely.
how do you fill an hour? Well,
I
you invite
know.
Lynn Sanders on the show, and then just talk to her about herself. So anyway, what I wanted to bring up was that you have a children's book that it's about to be published, and I wanted to ask you about that, and maybe you can tell us everything about what's going on with that.
Thank you, Roland. I want to just look at the big picture for a second, because Roland's been so kind. I'm just very grateful to have connected with him through Google Hangouts, and I feel like, everything in our lives is strategic attraction, and our focus on this coming Friday is all about how to strategically attract the perfect customers in using your story. So I'm not going to give away everything. I was concerned, am I supposed to be giving everything away on this piece? And I said, no, let's talk about strategic attraction. And, Roland asked me a good question about my upcoming story. And I thought I would let you know that, first, everything in our life, if you think of it as we're attracting what we focus on. So if we focus on negative, we attract more negative. If we focus on positive, we attract more positive. And so in the case of this children's story, I've always loved being around youth, because to me they're just so optimistic and enthusiastic, hopeful, and so I guess that comes from my background in teaching youth. So on my video shoots, I love bringing out stories from different people I interview, and sometimes those stories just linger in my mind. They just don't go away. I'm sure you must have, each of you listening must have stories you've heard from other people, whether they're family members or friends or strangers that just stick in your mind. So on this video shoot, and I'll never forget it, I was invited to be the writer, co-producer at the International Crane Foundation in Baraboo, Wisconsin, and the shoot was sponsored by Amico, because the International Crane Foundation didn't want to spend the money, and Amico was one of their supporters, and they were creating a whooping crane exhibit. Now, the International Crane Foundation is the only place in the whole world that harbors all 15 species of cranes. They're the tallest flying birds. So you go there and you feel like you've stepped back in time, and you hear the calls of these cranes from over a mile away. You walk along these pathways and you just feel like you're in some other world. And so I was just enchanted. I mean, I just loved every minute. And I got to interview the co-founder. His name is Dr. George Archibald. He just recently won another award. He is known by all the world scientists as the world's crane ambassador, even though most people in the public have never still heard of him. He's known like Jane Goodall is known, only he's known for his work with saving birds. So I was interviewing him, and off camera he told me this story. I couldn't forget the story, and I thought, oh, this would make a great children's story. But how do I write it? Because it involves artificial insemination, and I'm obviously not going to talk about that with kids. But it's the true story of George's friendship with this rare whooping crane named Tex, She was born in Texas, and she was imprinted by a zookeeper. That means that she was raised initially by a zookeeper, so she thought she was a person. She did not want to hang around any other bird, but it just so happened that Tex was one of the very rarest types of cranes. Whooping cranes are the rarest, and they were on the verge of extinction. And George realized that maybe she needed a different friend. Maybe she needed a person as a friend instead of another bird, and maybe he could help her lay a fertile egg with the help of what we call it special shots, instead of saying injections. But in any event, this took over 6 years. And so George told me that after a period of 6 years, he was dancing with her. Now, it wasn't every single day of the whole year, of course. Birds basically dance during the spring. But basically, over a period of 6 years, he was dancing with her during the springtime. He did take off a little time when he had to fly to another country, and he had other scientists dance with Tex. But eventually it happened. The bird laid a fertile egg, and that egg went on to become this chick who helped raise other chicks and grand chicks, and that one chick helped save the whooping cranes from extinction. So the qualities of faith and belief and perseverance really touched my heart, and I have that book now in process of getting illustrated. But I thought those qualities are something that all children should recognize, that we all can believe in ourselves and have faith that we can do something, and don't let the obstacles stop us. So that's kind of, in a sense, I attracted this story to myself to make it into a book, and I just recently attracted an illustrator who I think is amazing, from Mexico. And along the way, long before I even wrote that, I was asked to write another book. This is my only other children's book, Social Justice, How You Can Make a Difference. And I wanted to give a gift to everyone listening here. I don't own this book. It was a work for hire by Capstone Press. They asked me to write it. They paid me a flat fee. And I decided that even though I would own no royalties, I wanted to have the opportunity to write a book. So this is a book that has some stories in there of children who've gone out to make a difference, started their own nonprofits, and helped others. And it's a how-to book of what you can do as a youth to make a difference. So I want to offer that as a gift. If anyone would like that book, I have it as a digital download. It's not in hard copy. You can get it at Capstone Press, or Google, Amazon, Social Justice, How You Can Make a Difference, or my name. And that's a little gift I'd like to give you for just being involved with Roland's show. You could just send an email or whatever.
How about if we ask people, whoever would like to receive a copy of the Social Injustice, to actually post it in the stream of the comments? I will retrieve it from the comments, and I will literally send them a copy of the PDF in the email.
That would be my gift to all of you. That'd be a pleasure.
That's really nice. And Lynn, we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to bring this comment up from Carmen Mandich, was saying, positive attracts positive. Is that why it is called Google Plus, for people attracting other people? There's something to be said for that, Carmen, and I'm not sure that that's why Google did it, but they used the right icon of a plus sign. And I will say this: Google Plus is a different community and environment than any other social media, where when you plus somebody, it's just not like liking them in Facebook. And it's when you plus somebody, you also have the opportunity to uncircle and to limit the connectivity with the people. But we've found that the people in Google Plus are much, much more connective. They're open to one-on-one and group participation and communication, and you build better relationships that way. And then instead of a glancing blow that's concerned with just a basic like and seeing what people post, we are all about engagement in Google Plus. So that's what we're experiencing here, and this is the prime time, high-end example of engagement factor. So that's why we're doing it. So thank you very much for your comment.
My pleasure.
Now we are just about out of time, and the whole point of this whole thing was that you are the storyteller. Bringing your stories to life is the Difference Makers Media slogan, and we're building right into her website. So Difference Makers Media, bringing your stories to life. Now, we don't have to ask you how you bring your stories to life. You are obviously the consummate pro. And if anyone wants to talk to you about how to bring their own stories to life, what's their next step?
Well, they can email me. Since my new website's in process, my email is Lynn, Lynn, at differencemakersmedia.com, differencemakersmedia.com. And you can also comment on Roland's show. I'm happy to support you. I do strategic attraction coaching. I got certified through Jan Stringer and Alan Hickman this past year through their program, Strategic Attraction Coaching and Training Program, and you'll be hearing more about that on Friday at the summit. There are specific steps you can take to strategically attract what you want into your life. I also do writing, which I've been doing like almost my whole life, whether it be print or audio or video or now, scripting. I'm very comfortable in writing all different types of media, and I've been producing videos for many years as well, and this last year I've been doing online programs. So I've been happy to help you share your story, and as I'm sure Molly and Karen know, the more ways you can get your story out, the better. It doesn't have to be just one way. So I would recommend repurposing your story in multiple formats with print, online, audio, video, live, and that will give more people the opportunity to find you and remember you too. Okay, you might not remember me, but you remember a story. That's what it comes down to. People don't remember facts; they remember stories. Maybe you'll remember Joel's stories because he described it so well. He's not as so comfortable being on camera, but he's got this huge heart, and people feel it. And I think you could probably tell too.
Well, let's get this recorded for posterity. I will say that a few people were commenting relative to Joel and the fact that he did a really great job for his first HOA live performance online. He was wonderful. And so I've been telling him for several weeks now that he is a natural at this and that he ought to try it out some more. So maybe we'll be able to encourage him to do so. And we've got a couple of concepts and ideas that are brewing, so we'll maybe build off of that. Now, before we let Lynn go, because we've only got a few more minutes, does anybody in the audience or anybody have any questions or comments for Lynn or in the green room? Anybody? By the way, I will post this while you're thinking about that. This is from Dr. Aranda. Dr. Margaret Aranda. Wow, thank you for the social injustice book. I work with children all over the world, and they are so precious that we need to encourage them to persevere. Hats off to you for the offer.
Wait, Marvin, it's social justice, not injustice. We want to promote social justice.
That's because of me. That was my problem.
I said justice. So I'd be happy to share it with you. It's a great book. In fact, I want you to know one of the people, or two of them now in this book, there isn't any book that when I started writing this, no other book about 4 kids and how to create their own nonprofits, how to bring justice to the world. 2 of the people in this book, Craig Kielberger, he wrote his own book, and he has a nonprofit, Free the Children, and another person in this story with this how-to book, let me see, also wrote his own book, Bilal Rajan, and he, so anyway, you'll have a chance to look at this and learn more.
Lynn, what would you suggest for kids to get involved? At what age should they be reading your book, or getting them involved in their local nonprofits?
Great question. Well, first of all, just this is a book for 8 to 12-year-olds, so a young child probably would not be reading this. However, when I was doing research, and remember, I wasn't the boss of what went in the book. Capstone Press decided. I researched online a lot of different kids who were doing work to help others, and the youngest I found was this little girl who she passed away. She was 4 years old selling lemonade to raise money for cancer research, and it was because she had cancer. So as far as ages, you can look at this book and read it or read parts of it to anyone. I mean, kids, I think, are affected when they hear about other kids who are in need. They've got big hearts. So I know that in my areas, one child had died, and so other people wanted to help support a cause. I think that, kids learn by example. And when we went on our healthcare mission, our son Andrew went with us. He was teaching children how to brush their teeth. They never had a toothbrush before. And so now his passion is doing social justice. He grew up with that, in his environment. As long as you do things, kids model what you do. So if you see that they see you doing something, then they'll follow suit.
Yeah, that's very, very good stuff. I wanted to bring to mind that William Rock had to come and go. He's already gone. So thank you for showing up, William. Gary Whalen says he's been there, done that. Remember me? Your hubby did well, Lynn. So that was the key of his statement there. He thinks that your husband did very, very well. So none more kudos to Joel. And Carmen Mandich says, if I could get this, oh, there it is. I want to wrap it up with this. And she makes a very, very wonderful comment. This has been a wonderfully heartwarming and extremely informative event. Thank you very much for whoever that guy is, and Molly and Karen, and especially Lynn Sanders. Enjoyed being part of the terrific audience, too. So we had a great, I was surprised we got through so much. And, but we were able to touch at least significantly on 3 or 4 or more parts of your life and what you are, because next week we're going to talk about what you do. So today we had to find out who you are.
Thank you.
And this is the very same process that I think that all people who are concerned with marketing should go through. Figure out who you are and what you're doing and the relevance of what you're doing before you start marketing, because if you don't figure that out, you don't need my help. That's for sure. You need a psychologist maybe, but you really want to figure out where you're coming from and find out what your passion is and start from there and start giving. And it sounds like it's exactly what you did. So I love the story and I love the example that you said. Lynn, thank you very much for being on the show. And thank you, Molly. And thank you, Karen, for helping us along there. And thank you very much, the people in the audience, for participating with part of this, because you're as much of the show as everybody else here.
Roland, just a closing word, if I could. Quote
Yes.
that you've probably heard many times, that you can be the change you want to see in the world. So
that's perfect. That's perfect, because I think being is the most important word of today. You can think about the past, you can imagine the future, but you're only going to be here now. So with that, we're going to sign off from Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Everybody, thank you very much. Good day to you.
Thank you.